All right, so uh, this is my current project that I'm going to be starting today and hopefully finishing today. And I got it. It's a part, obviously, that I got out of a machine, obviously, and that machine was a scrap. What was it? Xerox machine, a photocopier. So it's got a lot of gears. It's got a motor, um, and that motor is attached to all this big gearbox thing here. This gearbox thing here has this one gear that's attached to a spring thing here. At one time, it had a belt that was attached to one of the gears and did something or other, but that's not happening anymore. And so, my plan with this thing is I'm going to turn it into a automatic wire stripper. And my plan to do that is pretty simple because a lot of the components that I'm going to need to make this thing function are already here. So hopefully I'm not going to have to modify this too much. I'm not going to have to get too in depth with going into anything crazy, finding any crazy parts or anything like that. So here's what my plan is. Let's break it down right quick for you. So this gear right here, that's the gear that's on the main axle that is directly connected to the gearbox that is connected to the shaft of the motor. All of the other gears on all the other axles are in some way driven off of this gear and the main gearbox axle. So I am going to use that as I'm going to leave um, that gear on there as my my gripper wheel thing that is going to be on the bottom of. So basically, the design of the wire stripper that I'm going to have, it's going to have two axles with two um, rotating things on them. The bottom one's going to have a gear, this gear specifically, as a gripper so that it's when it's spinning, you stick the wire in it, and this is going to grip it and pull the wire through. And on the top of it, like let's say there was a gear attached on this axle, that's not where it's going to be, but let's say it was there. Um, then the wire would be sandwiched between whatever's attached on this axle and this gripper, so then the wire would get pulled through. Now, what I'm going to put on the upper axle, or the axle that's opposing the gripper one, is going to be a it's going to be basically uh, I should have drawn this out before talking about it, but it's going to be like a disc, like a sharp disc, similar to the type of disc that is in a copper tube cutter. Um, you know those C-shaped, and they're shaped like a C clamp, but they're for cutting copper tube, and they've got that little um, hardened steel disc in it that goes up against the copper tubing, and you rotate the C shape cutter thing around and around and keep on tightening down that C shape uh, device, and that round cutter keeps on digging deeper and deeper until the copper tube finally breaks. Well, yeah, that's going to be the device that actually digs um, into the wire insulation and cuts it off. So how is that going to be centered? How's that little skinny wheel going to be centered on the wire insulation right in the center of it? Well, it's going to be guided there because that disc is going to be in the center of two other rather thick washers that have their sides that are facing the rotating disc angled inwards towards each other. And in the center is that rotating disc. I'm going to pause this and draw a picture. Okay, I don't know how easy this is to see or how hard it is to see, or how easy or hard it is to understand. But basically, this is how it's gonna be working. So this is gonna be this thing in the middle, this diamond shaped thing. That's gonna be the disc that would be in the copper pipe cutter that I was talking about. So you can buy those replacement discs at any hardware store you want. They sell them at all of them. So yeah, that's in the middle there. And then I just have to, on a lathe or whatever, I just have to make a couple pieces of plastic or pieces of metal shaped like that are a tight fit on the axle. And then that axle is fixed to sheet metal frame that goes on here. And then for the other half of it, I have to make this shaped thing. So I said I was going to be using this straight up piece here as the gripper and puller that's going to pull the wire through. Not so much. I'm going to have to make my own shaped whatever you want to call that. Won't be too hard to make, either on a lathe or some other method of making it. Shouldn't be too hard at all. And the center will have some groove lines cut into it, and this will be on some sort of sheet metal framing doohickey as well. But this one will be adjustable so that you can move it further and closer away from this part, so that you can cut different diameters of wire. So yeah, that's how your standard adjustable homemade wire stripper generally functions, and that's how I'm going to turn this guy into that. And I've decided I'm not going to do it today. I've got to go eat dinner and do some other stuff, but just thought I'd document my idea here so that I've got a little bit more motivation to actually put my thoughts into motion and get this thing done. I almost had the motivation to start doing it today, but yeah, that's the way things go. All right, so you'll see me stripping wire on this in a couple weeks or so, I guarantee you. Yeah, this is a nice little motor, and yeah, the wonderful thing about it being on a gearbox is generally when you have, this is a 120 volt motor. Generally when you have 120 volt AC motors, they usually spin at a pretty standard RPM. Usually, I forget what it is, but it's somewhere around 1,000 plus RPM. That's usually way too fast to do anything reasonably good with. If you're just making something like that you want to spin something slowly with, and it's really hard to implement a speed controller into a straight up single phase 120 volt AC motor unless it's got a gearbox. So yeah, this gearbox is nice. It converts it to a nice slow rotation, which is pretty much ideal rotation speed for what I'm designing here, which is a wire stripper where I don't want it ripping the wires out of my hand and massacring my fingers, ripping off fingers because it's pulling it way too fast, and I got my hand tangled in wire and it's still pulling it through, and I'm like, my fingers, and I'm gonna bleed to death. Yeah, don't want that happening. Okay, well, that's it for this video. Wish me luck. There's the design again. Wee wee! Alright, there's all kinds of other videos out there for making automated wire strippers, salvaging scrap metal, yeah, copper, aluminum, copper and aluminum scrapping, going to the scrapyard and scrapping metal, you know. You can make a little bit of money, you can make a lot of money, it just depends how good you are at spotting the stuff on the side of the road, and how much ambition you have to get good at building stuff like this so that you're not breaking your back trying to strip the stuff by hand for the next 5 years, and you stop at like 6 months and decide, no, I'm not doing this by hand anymore, and you actually invest in either building your own wire stripper, or you make yourself one yourself. Yeah, because yeah, I know guys that have been stripping wire by hand for 20 years, and it's like, man, you should have invested like 20 years ago in a wire stripper. Like, yeah, you would have been so much better off. And their response is always like, oh, those things are a waste of money. They don't actually save you any money. They don't actually make you money in the long run. Yeah, they're just bitter. All right, have a good one. That's it. Subscribe, like, and do all that other stupid stuff. All right, bye.